all I'm trying to say is that y'all cannot blame the church for the people that's in the church, and you cannot blame God for how the church is acting at this very moment. But you can count on God for him to correct the church and correct every bad thing that's going on.
Give me that joy I can't explain, an extra piece that'll ease my pain. Want that love that'll never change. Give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that, give me that.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl Kadrice, and you already know today is Free Yourself Friday. And you can tell from the title of this video, today we'll be talking about the truth about church. And I've been talking to a lot of people, mostly in their 30s on down, and we've been talking about church, and they will express their issues about Christianity and the reasons why they don't go to church. And you know, after hearing everybody talk, I see that everything that they're saying is similar. Like, everybody has similar issues on why they don't go to church. So I just want to talk about it. I want to start off by saying that you should go to church. I go to church. And this video is not to bash the church. However, we are going to talk about the truth. A couple of the main reasons that I've heard why people don't go to church, which is, I wrote them down so I can make sure I get them right. So it's the people in the church are hypocrites and judgmental, or they had bad experiences with, you know, people in the church or the leaders of the church, or they have heard stories about, you know, people in the church or the leaders of the church, or they have witnessed stories about people in the church or leaders in the church that is not godly, and they don't understand the Bible, or they don't understand what they're being taught. So a lot of this seems like it's, you know, church hurt. And church hurt is a real thing, and it's really serious, because you'll have a lot of people who distance themselves from the church because they've been hurt by the church. You know, after hearing all these reasons why, you know, people don't go to church and stuff, I can definitely, you know, understand and find truth in these reasons. I myself have experienced, you know, the people in the church and leaders of the church being hypocrites and, you know, being judgmental. I have experienced, you know, bad experiences with the people and leaders in the church. So I understand, you know what I'm saying, how it can make you feel, because I didn't feel good at that time. I myself, like, almost, like, not went to church because of the fact that, you know, people in the church are not acting like they should be. And, you know, but I didn't stop going to church, and I will never stop going to church, because of the fact that we're not here to go to church for men. We're here to go to church for ourselves, so that we can hear the word of God. So you should not be going to church for men. So it doesn't matter if somebody there doesn't like you. That has nothing to do with you. You are going to church so that you can get God's word, and so that you can get the instructions that he has for you, for your life. So we have to understand that, you know, and we have to take that in when we are, you know, going through things with people in the church or the leaders of the church. We have to understand that. And I just want to say, you know, for a lot of people out there, like, don't be afraid to go to church because you have sin and, you know, people who's going to judge you and things like that. Don't worry about those people that's going to judge you, because you have to let God correct them. And you have to let God correct his church and his house, because God will do that. So don't ever not go to church because you got sin and you're guilty of other things. The people in the church that's acting so righteous and that wants to be judgmental and being a hypocrite, that's them sinning. It's a sin to sit up here and know that you are a leader of the church or a member of the church and know that God say don't judge, and you judging this person that needs help. So we all have sins. It just may be in different ways. My sin may not be smoking and drinking, but my sin can be me being judgmental, me not loving others like I should be. So don't ever not, you know what I'm saying, go to church because of what somebody else is doing. They're not God. And you have to understand that every church is not the same. So you may have experienced a lot of church hurt in one church, and you may have experienced that that church wasn't really acting the way that they should be acting, but there's other churches out there that, you know, is really going by the word of God, and is really, you know, a righteous church, and God is really in that church, and they'll welcome you with open arms. So don't be discouraged. You know, find another church. Don't just not go to church. Don't make God pay for what man has done to you. And that's why it's important for us to have our own relationship with God. That's why you need to be reading the Bible yourself and things like that, because if you have your own relationship with God, then nobody should be able to tear you away from your relationship with God. And when you have your own relationship with God, you'll be able to talk to God about these problems that you're having with the church that you're going to. And God will help you through all of that. He will correct all that, because God's not happy when the church is not acting the way it's supposed to. God's not happy that the church people are judging you and making you feel like you don't want to come there and things like that, or whatever else that's going on. So don't ever be discouraged, and make sure you keep in mind that you need to have your own relationship with God, and you need to be reading the Bible yourself so that you can have the word for yourself. And you'll be able to, you know, move accordingly from there. God will let you know what he wants you to do from there. And God will never tell you not to go to church. So that's why I say it's important for you to have your own relationship. And another thing, you know, I'm not going to say that like, oh, it's right. But I am saying that the church is supposed to welcome you with open arms and, you know, make you feel love. You're supposed to get help from the church and things like that. However, if you're not being welcomed with open arms from some people in the church, that don't give you the right to not come to church. So I'm not saying that, you know, because most likely it's not the whole church. It's just some people in the church. And it's not right, but sometimes there's going to be people inside the church that's just not right. Because we're all here as sinners getting help and healing and things like that. And that's what everybody has to understand. Everybody in the church is human. Even the leaders, like everybody in the church, leaders included, is human. The pastor, they're human. So you have to understand that if they fall, that don't mean you fall. If your leader fall, that doesn't mean you fall and, you know, stray away from the church because, oh, your pastor has committed a sin that you cannot believe. Now, I'm not going to lie. That would be very mind-blowing. I haven't experienced that, but people that I talk to have experienced, you know, those kind of stories. And that's why I said that's one of the reasons why people don't go to church, because of the stories that they heard about, you know, the pastors not being legit, or, you know, just people in the church not being legit, the leaders and stuff like that. And it will be mind-blowing to hear that somebody that you're following is not as legit as they claim to be. But if your leader fall, that doesn't mean you fall, because you should be strong in the word and have a relationship with God yourself to know that their mistakes is not, you know, doesn't define God. So you have to understand that they're human. So I feel like that's a reason that a lot of people, you know, stray away from the church, because of the fact that, you know, they see something happening that they didn't think would happen because, you know, it's a church and it's dealing with God. However, human mistakes, man mistakes does not define God, even if they're a leader of God. So I don't want nobody to get that twisted that, oh, because I've been following this pastor, listen to the pastor, and he doing something wrong, now all of a sudden God's not real, or now all of a sudden I don't go to church no more. So, you know, that's not a good reason, you know, to just stray away. This is another reason that I didn't mention before time, but I just thought of it, that a lot of people think that you don't have to go to church because, you know, God is within you and, you know, he's with us every day and stuff like that, and that's the truth. But that don't mean that you shouldn't go to church, because there's a difference when you're being in the presence of God in his house, because God will use your leader to speak to you and give you instructions that you may have not been able to hear on your own. That's why, you know, we have a pastor and we have, like, you know, ministers and things like that, because God will use them in ways to speak to his people. And we do need to be in the presence of the Lord to receive those instructions at times. So don't think that, you know, just because you pray at home and you do everything, read the Bible at home and all that, that you don't have to go to church, because you do need to go to church. You do need to be in his house. And if you're reading the Bible, then you will see that in the Bible it says, you know what I'm saying, that you need to be in his house, because God said take care of his house, and he'll take care of your house. For people that say, you know, that they don't understand the Bible, that's another reason why you should be in church. If you don't understand the Bible, you have a leader there, you have people there in the church that helps you understand the Bible. That's what the pastor do when he's preaching. He helps you understand the text of the Bible. So you can't say, oh, I don't understand the Bible, that's why I don't like Christianity, and that's why I don't go to church. Well, if you go to church, then you will understand. And for the people that's going to church and you may not understand what the pastor is preaching about, then that's why you ask questions. You don't just leave church after a sermon if you don't understand it. If you don't understand it, you should go ask questions about what is it that, you know, they was talking about in the sermon. And I'm pretty sure the pastor wouldn't have a problem with answering your questions about the sermon that he said. So that, I understand when people say they don't understand the Bible, and I understand when people say, you know, they may not be understanding what the pastor is preaching, but I don't understand. I don't agree with it. So I understand what you're saying, but I don't agree with that being a reason why you don't go to church, because to me that seems more of a reason why you should be going to church. If you don't understand the Bible, you should be going to church so that the pastor can interpret the Bible for you. And if you don't understand what the pastor's saying, then you should be asking questions. Why would you leave church knowing you didn't understand the sermon? And I feel like, you know, for a lot of people that y'all don't understand the Bible because of the fact that you're not trying to understand the Bible. I have plenty of times where I will read the Bible and I may not understand it. So I would probably like read it over. I will read like a part of the Bible, I will read it over, and stuff like that. And then you got to go ask questions, because that's the only way you're going to understand it. That's why I say it's not enough for you just to pray at home and read the Bible at home and not go to church. Because sometimes you need a different understanding. And you may interpret this piece of the Bible, you know, the chapter of the Bible one way, and the pastor may interpret it a different way, like give it to you a different way. And that's the way that you need to be receiving it, because that's the way that's, you know, giving you what you need. So I definitely feel like, you know, there is a lot going on today in churches, and as the churches, they definitely need to get it together, because the church definitely should be, you know, somewhere where people can come and get help and get healed. You know, church should be more like a hospital and not like a club or something where we all get dressed up just to look at each other. And, you know, people sit here and cliques and all of that. No, it should never be like that. It shouldn't be no gossiping part. A lot of stuff should not be going on inside churches. But we have to understand that not every church is like that. And for some of the churches that you are experiencing things like that, doesn't mean that that whole church is just a throwaway. It just means that there are people in the church that is not acting the way they should be acting. But you have to sometimes expect that everybody inside the church is not going to be perfect, because we all go there. All sinners go to church. So it's like people are in their transition of being healed and changed and all of that. So you have to understand that you may have experienced something with somebody that's inside the church that may have not been the way that you thought they was going to be, but that doesn't mean that everybody in church is like that, or that doesn't mean that, you know, God is not within that church or nothing like that. Like I said, I have my own experiences, but that didn't stop me from going to church, and I wouldn't expect that to stop nobody else from going to church, because just because I had experience with somebody inside the church that may have not been acting godly, that doesn't mean that the church is responsible for them not acting godly, nor is God responsible for them not acting godly. So that's all I'm trying to say, is that y'all cannot blame the church for the people that's in the church, and you cannot blame God for how the church is acting at this very moment. But you can count on God for him to correct the church and correct every bad thing that's going on. So if you stick through it and you push through and you keep going, you will see God move. You will see him correct everything that needs to be corrected. You will see him work it out in your favor. But you cannot blame all these reasons on why you don't go to church. And you cannot make God pay for what man has done. And you're making him pay by saying, well, if somebody in the church do this to me, or if somebody in the church says something about me, then I'm not going. You can't do that. And I do understand, you know, it's a lot of the old people that's judging the young people on how we are. And that's wrong. That's definitely wrong, because it's the old people that should be encouraging the young people to embrace God the way that we embrace God, instead of trying to judge us on how we taking God in. But that's for the young people to come up and show the old people how we're going to do it. We are the leaders and we are the future. So that's not a reason to back down. This is the reason to fight. So when you're experiencing things that want to keep you away from the church, then you need to look at that as a reason why you need to keep on fighting. Keep on pushing through like you will push through on any other thing that you're going through. So I just hope that, you know, a lot of people who may have felt this way, I hope that, you know, you feel differently after watching this video, that you will step foot inside of a church and you will give a church another chance, and you will give God another chance, because, you know, that church hurt doesn't define God, and that church hurt doesn't define the church. And like I said, you cannot blame the people in the church. I'm blaming the church for the people behaviors that's in the church. I just hope that y'all all took this in. I hope that, you know, that this helped somebody that's dealing with church hurt understand that, you know, you shouldn't stay away from the church. So I just encourage everybody, you know, to go to church, receive the word that God has for you, receive the instructions that he has for your life. Don't let nobody get in between you and God relationship. And understand that we don't go to church for man, we go to church for ourselves. We go to church to hear the word that God has for us, not for man to like us or anything like that. And yes, the church should welcome us with open arms. And if that's not happening, pray to God about it and allow God to correct it for you before you just take upon yourself to take yourself out the church. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you hit that notification bell as well. Make sure you give me a thumbs up if you like it, a thumbs down if you don't like it. You know, give me some feedback in the comments below. Let me know what you feel, let me know what you think, and things like that. Y'all already know I'm gonna always be here, so see you later.